Hello and welcome to round 9 coverage of Grand Prix Atlantic here at the start of day 2. There you see our competitors. Pavel Miedvetsky, he is playing Affinity, he's 6-2, and he's playing against Tharolf Severin. He's 6-2, he's playing Devoted Evolution. This is the Devoted Druid combo, but he's also playing a couple of new cards in there to speed up his deck. He's playing Eldritch Evolution, and he's playing Postmortem Lunge, Eduardo.
Yeah, so to kind of explain Toralf's plan here, the idea of the Devoted Druid Vizier of Remedies combo is once those two creatures are in play, you essentially get to produce infinite green mana, since essentially Devoted Druid cost gets replaced with no cost, essentially, letting you untap it infinitely. That said, it does tend to die a lot, since most people know about this combo and, kill the Devoted Druid. The Vizier doesn't really do too much. Sometimes with Kitchen Finks, it's okay. But what Toralf has on top is Postmortem Lunge. So X and Phyrexian is actually X, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
You can get a target creature card that costs X from your graveyard to the battlefield, gains haste, and then you exile at the beginning of the next end step. That end step doesn't usually happen since you just produce infinite mana and
then,
win.
Yeah. Walking Ballista them or something with that mana.
Pick your poison.
Meanwhile, Miedvetsky, he's on a more tried and true plan here in Modern. He's got a cranial plating. He's going to put it on a signal past.
Yeah, this is a very fast start from Pavel, and with the Inkmoth Nexus,
he's going to put it on an Inkmoth Nexus.
Is this 1 second? This is 1, 2, 3. 1 power base, then you add free from the free attacking artifacts, so 4, 8, plus 1. I believe this is 1 off. Let me recount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 artifacts in place us, plus 7. Then there's 1 from Inkmoth, 1 from Signal Pest. So Toralf here would take 9 poison, which isn't lethal, but there's 2 in Inkmoth Nexi. So the Birds of Paradise wouldn't be able to block it anyways next turn, but would have to block both. So I think here Toralf is just making sure this isn't lethal and takes it, and is going to try to go off next turn. Combination of Eldritch Evolution or Vizier, and I believe there was already a Dustwatch Recruiter in hand, so that would be sufficient. Yeah, Chord of Calling. That's the game.
Oh, wow. Look at this. Tharolf Severin.
That's the game. That's it. We're done.
He's going to show his opponent Duskwatch Recruiter.
So
explain what happens here.
So Vizier of Remedies is the card that Toralf was going to get, showing the Dustwatch Recruiter in hand. Since that the Dustwatch Recruiter with infinite green mana allows you to essentially, look at every creature in the library, getting something like a Walking Ballista. But yeah, again, here you go. Vizier of Remedies with Devoted Druid. That combo means Devoted Druid becomes from untap by putting a -1/-1 counter. Vizier says, actually, we're going to replace that with just no counters. So you just get no cost untap Devoted Druid, and it taps for green mana. Perfect.
Yeah. So you just get untapped Devoted Druid, pat yourself on the back for being a genius,
and
make infinite green mana.
That's how I feel when I play that combo. Usually the main reason to play one of those decks is when removal light decks are not so popular in a format. It's a very fast deck. It can be quite vulnerable to decks like Jeskai with Lightning Bolt, Snapcaster Mage, that kind of pattern. But it's very good against some of the more linear decks in the format because it just kills on turn 3 with a remarkable degree of consistency.
Yeah, according to Tharolf, he says the deck kills on turn 3 with no interaction, and maybe turn 3.2 is his average goldfish kill with the deck.
Right. Toralf decided to go even more in the combo direction by having Eldritch Evolution and Postmortem Lunge. So probably has less of an ability to go for a mid-range value plan that these decks typically have, since generally these decks have a few slots for that main deck, like Kitchen Finks, Viscera Seer. With the Vizier is also Infinite Life, but probably Toralf not as capable of doing that. So it's harder to mid-range because Kitchen Finks is one of these key cards to allow you to mid-range your opponents. However, they still are capable, like boarding in some key creatures from Toralf here. Pavel, a more traditional sideboard plan usually. The free edge champions are kind of nice to get through damage with something like a Cranial Plating. They're not good to start with because you're not interacting with your opponent's combo, so you're going to lose. Especially with Pavel only really having 2 Galvanic Blast. This is the one matchup where cutting that card is it's pretty atrocious, really. But yeah, here Pavel probably going to board in those champions for post-board games for more interaction. Gear Report Aether Grid is going to be really what Pavel looks for. If that card lands early, then Pavel has the ability to control Toralf's board pretty easily.
Okay.
And it's very easy then to kind of take over the game. There are a few other cards. The 2 Whip Flare are really good as well, like a kind of Pyroclasm effect. Or literally a Pyroclasm effect, so to speak. But yeah, with Whip Flare, Aether Grid, trying to take control of the game that way, and then having Edge Champion be able to go through blockers, cutting some of the cards like, say, Karn, Starry, and Aversa. Maybe the Edge Champions don't come in since Pavel's playing Master of Ethereum, so may prefer that plan and going wide, but something like Memnite is very subpar in a matchup like this.
Just take a moment to appreciate Karn, Scion, Aversa in the Affinity deck. I love this card. I mean, I love all Karns, but
you love all Karns?
I do. I love all Karns. I liked Karn Silver Golem. I used to play with that card a lot. I like the
fair.
Karn Arena, the Karn Arena card.
Well, if those are the Karns you're okay with, then that's fine. And those are the Karns I'm okay with.
I also love Karn 7.
Karn 7, Karn Liberated. To be fair, if you pay 7 actual mana with 7 actual lands, I'm okay with Karn Liberated.
You know my Karn goals. It's to play a 5-player game of Commander and kill each player in a separate Karn game.
Oh my God.
It's the full Karnception. That's the goal. I've only gotten as far as killing 3 before the remaining people
If you want Gameception, I was trying to wonder before Sherazad was banned from Magic, whether Burning Wish onto Sherazad in a sub-game, what would happen? A Sherazad on the stack. This is these are more theoretical Magic points.
Yes, let's get back to the Magic at hand here.
The same way, like, you go from actual physics to theoretical physics. But yeah, so to kind of, while Toralf is thinking about
we were stalling while Thoralf's deck list got here for us.
But yeah, it seems like Thoralf's hand might be Cord and Devoted Druid, but post-board these hands are a lot more vulnerable, since while there is the combo, there's not much action, and a single removal spell might be a problem. Toralf probably going to board in Birch and Forge Tender in response to something like Galvanic Blast or expecting Whip Flare. Aether Grid with board turn Forge Tender can also work, I believe. Actually, it would prevent the next time damage. Bird turn Forge Tender, I believe, prevents the damage the next time the source does it. Yeah, and probably Toralf as well will bring in that Kataki War's Wage.
Oh, yeah.
That's a sweet card.
That is one of the many weapons at modern players' disposal to really punish these affinity decks. But Pavel's coming out of the gate pretty quickly here. He had a turn 1 Vault Scourge. He's got a turn 2 Steel Overseer. And those two can get out of hand pretty quickly. And Ornithopter can actually do something meaningful here with the help of a Steel Overseer.
Ornithopter always does something meaningful. It may not look meaningful, but it is meaningful. Whether it's powering up a Mox Opal or wearing a Cranial Plating, Ornithopter is a very scary little creature.
Whether it's proxying a Mox Opal. There's Devoted Druid. That eats a Galvanic Blast immediately.
Yep. That's the way it usually goes. Die, elf, die.
Yes. The modern variant on Bolt the Bird. Although Bolt the Bird is also...
Bolt the Bird is modern legal.
Yeah,
and I think we've seen it on camera.
We have.
For many, many, many decades.
So Steel Overseer does its thing. Puts +1/+1 counters on both creatures. And then there's the Gear Report Aether Grid you talked about earlier. So this is a big sideboard card. Pavel's sideboard showing up to do work for him.
Yeah, this is a really powerful card here. Essentially, Pavel has the ability to kill any X1 creature without having to break a sweat, and can decide to forego an attack to kill another one. And this is going to be really rough for Toralf here. One of the cards that might help Toralf is Shalai, Voice of Plenty. While it can die to Aether Grid, it does usually have enough time. But here, yeah, that Birds of Paradise in hand, it's not exactly what you want to do. Path to Exile, probably a necessary sideboard card against a deck like Affinity. Get rid of Steel Overseer, or get rid of an Arcbound Ravager before he goes out of hand.
And, yeah, Path takes down the Overseer.
By the way, this is also why Kataki War's Wage is a card I've liked a little less against Affinity over time, because the decks that are bringing in Kataki War's Wage are usually these kind of combo creature decks. And what are they bringing in against you? A bunch of Galvanic Blast, Aether Grids, and Whip Flares. So I feel like you get far less value from Kataki. So I've kind of liked Stony Silence, even though you can't search it.
Right. If he played Kataki there, I mean, Pavel would have just paid the tax
And then
and killed it
Yeah.
and moved on with his game.
yeah, it would have been like as close to exhaustion.
Yeah. There's an Arcbound Ravager.
Just more fuel. Just more fuel. But yeah, the Aether Grid here. Ooh, even that drum looks scary just because of Aether Grid.
Yeah, 3 artifacts up, so he has 1 activation available to him.
Yeah, and then like a total of 3 as necessary down the line.
And you can just see he's just exiling cards in Tharolf's hand here. You know, Tharolf just can't play his Noble Hierarchy, can't play his Birds, he can't even play his Duskwatch Recruiter.
I mean, you can play the card. It just doesn't. It's like, okay.
I mean, probably better than discarding.
Sure. It's also a question of, at some point, you do want to use up, because Pavel, the first ping is kind of free, but the second one becomes a little less so, and the third one costs an attack. So, I think here, just playing the Dustwatch Recruiter is a interesting line. I wonder if it would have been correct to just kind of unload everything. Because again, the first ping is kind of free if you don't need the lands. And then the second one is Ravager plus, again, say the Darksteel Citadel, the Mox Opal. So it's got a little cost, but not too much. But as we progress, especially because the Dustwatch Recruiter can't be activated this turn.
All right, well, Pavel's just happy to continue flying over. Well, willing to try to do 20 this game. Sometimes he just tries to do 10. And going to let the Duskwatch Recruiter transform.
Yeah, it's also interesting here that Toralf didn't decide to activate it. I'm not sure if activating it was correct or not, but I believe Toralf has a Court of Calling in hand. So the plan might be to quartered for a free drop. There's only, there's only 1 Kitchen Finks, so there's actually 2 Summoners pack. Wow, Toralf is really all in on the combo. Like, really focused on winning with that.
He said that he felt like he needed to be faster because of Creeping Chill.
Okay, that's
He said,
fair.
the addition of that to the Dredge deck just said, you know what, we just need to be an all-out. We need to be all in on our combo to race how much faster the Dredge decks have gotten.
That's fair. I think one of the funniest pieces of technology I've seen from one of these decks was Hall of the Bandit Lord. Toralf isn't playing that, but Hall of the Bandit Lord is a land that gives haste to a creature at the mere cost of free life.
All right, well, Birds of Paradise was the play. It was targeted with the Aether Grid, and now we're going to see a Court of Calling for 4 here.
Should be for free.
For 3, sorry, yes.
Because the
Because
forest.
the forest was tapped for the bird.
Yeah.
There's a Knight of Autumn.
Perfect.
And Knight of Autumn, out of his sideboard, that is going to kill the Giraport Aether Grid.
Yeah, Knight of Autumn, again, all-star here. But I feel like Pavel could have kind of avoided this fate by killing the Dustwatch Recruiter. When you're playing against these Court of Calling decks, usually it's very valuable to kill any creature on site. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Their creature died. That sounds great to me.
Right. By the way, we have another deck in the feature match area that's running 4 copies of Knight of Autumn, main.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get some time to look at that deck either this round or next round. So a second copy of Arcbound Ravager.
Oh, and Toralf
Pavel only needs to find 7 damage here.
This is lethal.
Yeah.
I haven't done the math, but it's lethal. like there's when you've
heard of Dead on Board. This is Dead in Theory.
Dead in Theory. Yeah, but like I've played enough Affinity games with and against Affinity. Like there's a lot of times you're just wondering, and it's like 1 or 2 off. That one was like, okay, we're 2 Ravagers. Okay, we're done.
I'm 1 or 2 over.
Yeah, I think that was more than. What was the damage there? Let's see. There was still a Mox Opal, so that would have been 5. You can sack the Ravager. That would be up to 7. Then that can go. And once that goes, you have already free power in place. That have been a free over. Free damage over. So yeah, here we're going to game 2. For Toralf's deck, this is a pretty big move. Game 3. This is a really big thing for Toralf's deck. It is based on having mana creatures. So being able to start with Noble Hierarch rather than having to respond is a huge edge. It turns... Because then your opponent has to choose, do I develop or do I deal with my opponent's threat? Because the Affinity deck does have to essentially play it out its own game. Like, Pavel can play a Whip Flare on turn 2 if Toralf's follow-up is not too strong. But usually, without Whip Flare, Toralf can really run away with the game. Even something like a Galvanic Blast is like, okay, well, I guess that was the worst-case scenario. I'll move on with my life. That means this Devoted Druid survives. So yeah, here, I don't think we're going to see too many surprises in the sideboard, to be honest. Both decks are... I mean, Toralf's deck is just sweet.
Right.
But
and we saw that he brought in Path to Exile, brought in Night of Autumn.
Yeah. But I really like, by the way, that Shall I Voice of Plenty. You know what you can do with infinite green mana? You can make all your creatures arbitrarily large in the process. As well as, only the Shalai is targetable.
Right.
Everything else is protected, including yourself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Shalai off a Quarter Calling could be a really nice little counterspell there.
Yeah, it's a very I remember doing that. That was my opponent played Terminate, and in response, I got a Shalai and made my creatures infinitely large. That was not what they were expecting. It was a nice moment.
Yeah, anyone who's played that limited format knows all too well about Shalai.
Yeah, but in that format, you didn't have Devoted Druid, which is such a shame.
Yeah, I was fine just playing fair with it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm in limited.
Oh, in limited? Yeah, sure, that's fair. Man, but wait, Dominaria Limited could have been unfair.
Yeah.
That was a sweet limited format. I think we can play. You can play it on Arena. I think it came back. But yeah.
All right. So players looking at their open hands again. You mentioned very important for Thoralf to get to be on the play here.
Yeah. Let's see that hand.
Well, Thoralf has obviously kept his. Pavel not happy with his opening 7, and this is always a question. Affinity's such a play everything out to the board and deck. How hard is it to mulligan? Like, what are the decisions on 6 with an Affinity deck?
So the main thing you're wondering when you're mulliganing game 1s, especially with Affinity, is do I have cards that allow me to play, lands, Mox Opals, mana, and do I have a payoff spell? A Cranial Plating, Karn Sign of Urza, Arcbound Ravager, Seal Overseer. You need something that pays off, essentially. Makes it worth having all these cards that otherwise would be useless, say Ornithopter. Now, post-sideboard, Pavel is looking for much more specific cards because playing a typical Affinity game means Pavel will lose. So at that point, Pavel is also looking for interaction like Whip Flare or Aether Grid or Galvanic Blast. And once you're doing that, you're more likely to mulligan, but the Affinity deck does need a critical mass. That said, something like Whip Flare can easily make up for the lost cards. So definitely much easier to mulligan in a post-board game like this. Right. It's worth noting Toralf has the combo already, I believe, of Devoted Druid, Free Lands, and Court of Calling. There's no 1-drop, but if that Devoted Druid untaps into Court to get Vizier, I believe there's also a Dustwatch Recruiter, so that would be it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, Pavel really needs that interaction piece.
So Thoralf's deck trying to win on turn 3. What would you say the average turn is for the Affinity deck? It's certainly capable of
turn 4
winning on turn 3, but it's more of a turn 4 deck.
Yeah, it's turn 4, but it's a solid turn 4, as in like you're doing multiple things at the same time, and you still have a board if you haven't killed on turn 4. So, yeah.
Well, Pavel's looking at his 6.
It was like Island Galvanic Blast, the Grand Classic. But there's also a Mox Opal, a Steel Overseer that I could see. So I think this is one of those awkward Mox Opal hands where you have Mox Opal, which is one of the best cards in the Affinity deck, but you don't really have.
You don't have it turned on.
Yeah, which is again a bit strange, but it's again Pavel has an interaction piece and decides to ship it back, deciding probably the hand was something like Mox Opal Island Galvanic Blast, but like free 2-drops or something, and yeah, that would be too hard.
Yeah. Antipathy instead of Affinity.
Yeah, I mean, Toralf would have easily walked over the game if Pavel had in mulligan. Unless Pavel drew, I guess in that spot, one of the best cards possible would have been something like Spring Leaf Drum, but if there's no 0 drops, it's still average. It would have been good, though. Like, a Darksteel Citadel would have been great. The second land to help power up the Mox Opal and a 2-drop. So that would have been, like, the best card on top. Something like Darksteel Citadel to power up the Mox Opal and allow Pavel to go 2-drop plus Galvanic Blast. But mulliganing at 5, Pavel's basically going to have to keep kind of anything that's playable at this point. And when that's your criteria, Toralf could easily take over the game if Pavel goes, look, this at least lets me have a board and I have to get lucky. And then, yeah, Toralf gets there.
All right, let's see what Pavel can do on 5. I'm really interested to see if Thoralf can just, look at his hand and go, oh, okay, I win with this.
Yeah, the one question is, like, do you go for the chord when your opponent has open mana to disrupt your combo? And the question is, what would happen if this chord, say, the Devoted Druid died? What would I get? Sometimes the answer is, okay, I will actually get this Vizier of Remedies. Other times it might be, okay, well, I won't. I'll just get something else. But yeah, Toralf is actually playing the Viscera Seer Kitchen Finks combo, just one piece of each. Okay. So it's like a secondary combo or tertiary.
And again, once you're playing with cards like, Court of Calling, that are essentially your one-ofs have a tendency to show up more often in the right situation than they do in other
for decks. Eldritch Evolution, for Court of Calling, your one-ofs are a little more, are very relevant.
Eldritch Evolution, a card we have not seen yet in this match. All right, Pavel's keeping his 5. He's pushing a card to the bottom. And there is Memnite, Vault Scourge. Pretty good turn 1 off of 5 cards.
Yeah.
But this is not going to give him, doesn't give him any way to deal with this Devoted Druid, or certainly not showing any red mana here.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a Spire of Industry enhanced. The red mana is fine, but it's also it's like 2 Cranial Plating a Spire. So Pavel's hand is just, it's a very good affinity hand for 5, but it doesn't have the interaction necessary to kind of keep up. I didn't know Misty Rainforest was a Verdant Catacombs was an 8th edition card.
All right, so there's the Devoted Druid. Did Pavel draw an answer?
Yeah, I mean, if Pavel has this draw step, without this draw, okay, we're done.
Steel Overseer is the play.
That's it.
And
I believe
the advantage bar is ticking its way upward.
I haven't put it to the max because I need to recheck the hand. Oh, there's core. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah, all Toralf has to do is play a land.
There's a Shariah
add 2 green mana with the Devoted Druid can add 2 green. Yep, and we're done.
Wow, look at this. Thoralf Severin wins on turn 3 in 2 of his 3 games here with the Devoted Druid Court of Calling combo. This is definitely a deck you need to be looking at for Modern.
Yeah, it's kind of been a deck that's been underrated for a long time, for years, I feel, these kind of combo creature decks. And when they get the right spot in the metagame, they can really take over. I think they're just an underrated style of deck because they take... there were a lot of people that played Birthing Pod, and a lot of them just transitioned into other archetypes rather than keep with it. But yeah, I love seeing these kind of creature combo decks still being a force in the metagame.
I'm sure that deck's going to end up, 2 turn 3 kills will end up being part of the end of day highlights, and the deck list will be in there. You definitely need to check it out. Eldritch Evolution and Postmortem Lunge, also a big part of that deck, giving it a little bit of durability, a lot of speed. So we've got more Magic coming up for you. The possibilities are endless this round. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the booth here for round 9 of Grand Prix Atlanta. Brian David Marshall here with Eduardo Sajgalik. And Eduardo, it's Good Morning Magic. So that means we could see anything in the feature match area. And in fact, we've got a pretty exciting possibility going on in the feature match area. We have a possibility Storm deck. David Hauser is playing that deck at 6-2. He's playing against Lucas Michaels. Lucas Michaels playing a very similar deck to what we just saw from Thorolf Severin. He's playing a Devoted Company deck, although I don't think his deck is as aggro necessarily.
It's a more traditional build of the deck with Knights of the Reliquary. And by the way, that Lightning Bolt on Noble Hierarch seems like totally normal. What if I told you David Hauser played one of those?
Well, you know what? Having looked at David Hauser's list, I would believe that of almost any card in it because he's got a ton of one-ofs here.
Yeah. I kind of, there's a ton of one-ofs, although I kind of wish there was more than 2 Gifts Ungiven. This would be a sweet deck.
But what there are 4 of is Possibility Storm. And we'll see if we can get someone's attention to throw a Possibility Storm up on the screen. But Possibility Storm is an enchantment, costs 5 mana.
And David just drew it.
And whenever you play a spell, there's a Vizier of Remedies from Lucas Michaels.
Vizier of Remedies is the less scary part of the combo.
Yeah.
Because normally you're worried about Devoted Druid into it since the creature otherwise has Summoning Sickness. But yeah, Vizier of Remedies without the combo is just a 2-1. Ooh, Remand. I think the best part about playing against this deck is Lucas Michaels for now is probably like, okay, this is like a typical blue-red deck.
Right, this is someone who had a Splinter Twin deck and just moved on to blue-red control.
They might be playing Through the Breach, Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. Well, they are playing the Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. That part at least is correct. I also like that there's Jace the Mind Sculptor to brainstorm back Emrakul's if necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We see a Serum Visions. And this is not a thrown together deck at the last minute. As you look at the shiny collection of cards here. This is a beloved brew here from David Hauser.
I mean, you say that. It could have come from a nice cube.
Right, well, certainly the one-ofs would support that theory.
Yeah, but I think David Hauser with the Serum Vision put a Endless One on top, and that's the only... There's only 2 creatures in the deck. Endless One and Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. So David Hauser is well in their track to go turn 5 Possibility Storm, Endless One, Emrakul the Aeon's Torn.
All right, well, here is Night of Autumn, and it's going to be met with a Harvest Pyre here. So Night of Autumn, he's like... Lucas is like, okay, what's going on here? This is the first clue that things are maybe a little unusual.
Harvest Pyre is a totally normal card in these blue-red decks, as is Engineered Explosives. I don't understand. The Engineered Explosives main deck is a bit weird. I'm a bit surprised by that, but so far it looks like a blue-red combo deck of sorts. All of these assumptions are true. The part that isn't is what's going to happen.
All right, get in with my Vizier.
I also believe Possibility Storm casts the card.
It does. Here's a Tireless Tracker. This is a perfectly fair and reasonable series of plays from Lucas Michaels.
It's a perfectly reasonable series of plays from both players. One of them is playing Serum Visions, Lightning Bolt, Remand, Harvest Pyre, and the other one's playing Tireless Tracker. Okay, Is It Charm? Still, everything looks okay. Is It Charm's the one? Okay, we're definitely against a combo. Oh! Shuffling in that Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn.
Okay. So
gave the game away a bit.
He did give the game away a bit. Let's get a look at Possibility Storm here, because that's the card he just showed us while he shuffles in that Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. Needed to get that out of his hand.
Yeah, there's only one. There we go.
And I believe the art is a picture of your opponent's brain when you play Possibility Storm.
That sounds about right. And here we go.
All right, Possibility Storm.
Yeah, I think, David, there we go.
I'm going to cast an Endless One for 0. He doesn't get the phone out. I need to look this card up.
We had informed the judge that something might come up. The judge already ready with the Oracle text of Possibility Storm. Lucas is like, what's this card? I've got you. I got you.
I already had this one queued up for you. Okay, so now, Possibility Storm, we're going to keep going.
Oh, yeah, we get to look at the
until we
sweet deck.
find another creature. Yeah, take a look at all these cards in here. Nope, not a creature still. Nope, there's those 2 gifts ungivens.
This looks like a sweet collection.
Oh, there's Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. I will now cast it instead of casting this Endless one. I like this one better.
This Eldrazi is the only Eldrazi for me. But yeah, it's cast. So, you get that extra turn.
Now an extra turn is coming.
By the way, an interaction that can be quite funny in a future game. I've seen somebody win where their opponent attacks Emrakul the Aeon's Torn into their opponent's 2 tireless tracker and 6 clues. I don't think that's where we are at, though. There we go.
Engineered Explosive gets popped.
And we take 15.
And everything goes. And that is going to be... Bravo, David Hauser. That was exciting.
There we go. I always love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, that was pretty perfect. And again, that Endless one is the one. So that's the 2 cards combo for him with Possibility Storm.
Yes.
So
you
really
you
a
basically
3-card
combine
combo.
Endless one with Emrakul the Aeon's Torn in the deck, and yep.
All right. Lucas is like, all right, again, I'm going to try to play fair here. I'm going to open with a Birds of Paradise.
Yeah. Now, post-sideboard, I'm just looking at this sideboard full of one-ofs. It's just like, okay, I
All one-ofs and 4 Leyline of Sanctity.
Yep. There's not many sweepers in there, though. Only really Engineered Explosive and Anger of the Gods and Chandra Flamecaller. Again, all as one-ofs. Chandra Flamecaller would be a sweet way to win the game. You get to Possibility Storm adjacent to a Chandra.
Oops, we had a little bit of a... it looks like maybe a little bit of a sequencing issue here with the Serum Visions.
Yeah. One of the cards might have dropped off or something could have happened there.
I think he might have done the draw scry out of sequence. I'm not sure.
Sure, I'm sure this will get
Yeah, they're just working it out. The judges have dealt with all of these issues before. Again, this is Time Walk, so we can't. They're gonna shuffle and.
I mean, there's no advantage getting that way.
And then resolve it.
Easy solution if the card didn't go in hand. But yeah, I mean, David is essentially in this matchup just going to try to prevent Lucas from going off, and Lucas probably sideboarded parts of the combo out because. The combo doesn't tend to be good against blue-red combo decks. If Lucas had known how little interaction David actually had in the deck, might have decided, you know what, I'm gonna maybe keep more combo pieces than I thought. But
right, again, he saw that first turn Lightning Bolt. That makes you feel like Lightning Bolt's a very common part of that deck, and that it's going to show up perhaps more than once in the list.
Yeah. Although it's worth noting that the interaction between Possibility Storm and Endless one, you can't really use those 2 Assassin's Trophies you brought in or Court for Night of Autumn in the process. Since it's cast and it just happens.
All right, well, here's the Vizier of Remedies on turn 2. Again, not the optimal sequence necessarily for David Hauser.
Yeah, no, Devoted Druid is definitely the way to start here.
For Lucas Michael, sorry.
But yeah, David probably passing here with a Is It Charm, just kind of ready for something coming down. There's not that much counter magic. There is a lot of counter magic. It all just varies. They're all like Remand, Condescend, Logic Knot, Mana Leak. Okay, there might be an Abrade kept up.
One of my favorite magic cards is a one-of in the deck, Giga Drowse.
Oh yeah, Giga Drowse your opponent. With Possibility Storm, I think you have to pay the Replicate, though that's not really... One cool thing you can do is when you cast Giga Drowse off Possibility Storm, you can, the Replicate goes on the stack, so the spell goes away, but you still get the Giga Drowse effect if you want.
That's nice. So,
you might have to
dangerous spot here with Lucas, that ability to represent Court of Calling for a game-winning combo piece.
Yeah. When your opponent's passing up on attacking for 2 with a Vizier of Remedies, you know that they have Court of Calling in hand. 2 drops. The most likely one is something like Devoted Druid. I mean, if Lucas gets to untap with Devoted Druid, that'd be all. But yeah, usually it goes the other way, right? You try to get Devoted Druid into Vizier since you would win right away.
Right. But an end-of-turn Devoted Druid ends up being essentially the same thing, assuming your opponent is going to tap out. But it doesn't look like David is showing any willingness to do that.
I would certainly not feel willing to tap out, even with no cards in hand, to fight this interaction against this board.
Well, it's actually Collected Company that's a play, and we see a Logic Knot for 1 from David Hauser.
I wouldn't be surprised if Lucas had access to both Collected Company and Court of Calling, and essentially went for Collected Company in the face, because you kind of want to resolve your value spell first if you think that your combo kill spell won't work. Since if your combo spell works, then you're going to just win. But because you have to repass the turn, it might have been better to go some sequence like Court of Calling. And if that gets countered, I mean, that's what happens. But then next turn you can play Collected Company on your turn. It's more likely, and it's likely to resolve and give you a board presence.
Now the Vizier attacks.
Yeah, because you can't really pass with just Court. So
offers up a second Bird of Paradise.
Okay, with the way the lands are done here, you can still Court for 2. One of the things here to take note of, though, is that Windswept Heath is not a mana source. I mean, it gets a land, but it's not a mana source. So one of the things that can happen, it's rare, and it's usually not correct, but it can happen sometimes, is in response to the Windswept Heath activation, you can say, kill the Bird of Paradise that's summoning sick, and then the Court of Calling wouldn't be able to work because you don't have a land.
Yeah.
And a Birds of Paradise on the table on the same time.
We're taking a tour of the Windswept Heaths in history with your tour guide, Richard Hagon, at the Card Viewer. Thank you, Richard.
The many lands. We also have 2 different Temple Guards in play.
We've got 2 different Birds of Paradise in play. Oh, the gods are angry.
It's fine. The gods are displeased. This is too many cards that do not seem to be similar to each other. Also, Lucas does not have access, it seems, to Burnt-in Forge-Tender, which I understand, since these since Anger of the Gods style decks have been a little less of a force in the metagame recently. But it's a card definitely that could have been in the deck and would have been quite nice in that spot.
That would have been a great cord target. Yeah. All right.
Oh, Vidalkin Shackles.
Wow, a blast from the past, a card we've not seen a ton of in Modern.
Oh, that card is... Oof, I remember playing against this card in Standard. That was miserable.
Well, that's going to get Abrupt Decayed.
No,
I'm sorry, Assassin's Trophy. Yes.
I know they're very similar.
Yes.
They are very similar, to be fair.
It's going to get Assassin's Trophy, yes.
Man, giving your control opponent a land feels so awful.
Control? I mean, you still believe it's your opponent's a control player? It's combo control?
Yeah, it's combo control, but it's what, 15 land drops and Emrakul the Aeon's Torn? That's the plan. Assassin's Trophy's helping.
That's true.
Actually, are there 15 lands that produce mana, like non-fetches? We got 9, 12, 13. Yep, it's more than enough.
How many more than enough?
I think we're at 16 or 17. It's fine.
Okay, it looks like we are transmuting Teleria West.
Oh, I like this. You essentially play free Teleria West as a combination of your mana source and Endless One Tutor. That's a sweet piece of deck building. But you got Academy Ruins. And Academy Ruins gets back Vidalkin Shackles. Turn after turn after turn.
Teleria West, a card Paulo was talking about yesterday, Fells, is very underplayed in the Modern format. Says this is, a very powerful card. Gets you, as you can see here, silver bullet lands that do very specific jobs, but also, there's a whole package of free spells that it can get you as well.
Yeah, anytime a land kind of masquerades as a spell, it tends to be extraordinarily powerful. Just because, the ability, especially in a format like Modern, where like a lot of the zero-cost cards are like engineered explosives. Different lands of different utility, like Academy Ruins and that Endless one. It's just like having a mana source that can act as a tutor. It is one of the gems of Modern that I think still requires exploration somehow. Yeah. Somehow this format's at least 5-6 years old, and 2011, and people still haven't maybe figured out the full potential of a card like Tolaria West. That's true.
See Lucas just fetching, taking a look through his deck here, going, okay, what's my plan here? How am I dealing with this? Next Vidalcan Shackles goes and gets a second land.
It's the same Vidalcan Shackles. It just keeps coming back and back and back and back and back.
Ooh, now we're going to wander through the forests.
That one's amazing.
And Court of Calling is going to get countered with an Is It Charm.
And Lucas appears to be out of cards.
Wow. So David is just playing playing the control game here.
Yeah,
and it shows you can have a lot of one-ups to really exploit a card like Gifts Ungiven, but still have a lot of redundant cards.
Yes, like the cards don't have... I mean, Flame Slash, Harvest Spire, they kind of do similar goals of killing things.
Here's a 3/3 Walking Ballista off the top for Lucas Michaels.
A very fair Walking Ballista. I mean, Vidalcan Shackles essentially kills it.
Yeah, well, I think that might be what we see happening here.
I mean, it does imply that David has access to another land in hand.
Right. That's the question, but he does.
Okay. Yep. Cast it. Try to take the Ballista. Take free.
Yep. Go to 11. But Vidalcan Shackles lives to... now, on Magic Online, you might not remember how to untap that. You might get a turn, but here in real life Magic, you just get to...
Yeah, you have to specifically click on it, right?
Yeah, once I timed out with that card, and I just didn't draft it again in my cubes.
That is not the right approach.
Here's an Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness is going to get back Collected Company for Lucas. A great card to get him back in this game.
Yeah, Lucas really needs to get ahead on cards, and Collected Company is one of the only ones that allows it.
Maybe lets him find something like a Knight of Autumn.
You did say it's real life that Vidalcan Shackles did stay tapped.
Wait a minute, what just happened?
You shouldn't say things like this. Obviously, this is real life.
Are we using Beetlejuice principles here?
We only said it once, right?
Yeah, that's true. All right, here's Gifts Ungiven for David Hauser. And now this is Gifts Ungiven. This could be quite an adventure because what is Lucas going to give him? What is he going to take? He has a ton of options here.
I think one of the first decks I ever played in Constructed had 3 4-ups, and one of them was Gifts Ungiven. Unsurprisingly, my matches took a little while to finish. Gifts Ungiven was one of the most skill-intensive cards ever printed in Magic. Well, unless you're trying to put 2 cards in your graveyard, then it's just a double and 2.
Right. But you know what? That was not a really known mode of that card for a while. It was really Frank Karsten who showed the world that at Worlds in 2005.
Yeah, that was a play. Back then, that was an incredible play. I remember also remanding your own spells wasn't known for quite a while in Modern. And now it's the de facto mode of like a lot of those tempo mirrors was to remand your own spells. But back when Modern started, nobody did that. That wasn't a thing you did.
Yeah. All right, so as predicted, this Gifts Ungiven has taken a while.
What do I want? Well,
is there a package here that leaps out to you?
I mean, you could get like something like a removal package, but I don't believe that's necessarily required. I would go something like Possibility Storm like this. Yeah, I like this. Possibility Storm plus Gifts Ungiven. Plus 2 cards that would be extremely difficult for Lucas to beat.
What is that? Is that a Grafdigger's Cage?
Yeah, and a Dispel. So essentially, Lucas can give David Dispel and Grafdigger's Cage. Since I don't believe Lucas will beat the card Possibility Storm, or the card gives Ungiven. And when you give a Dispel or a Grafdigger's Cage, you might as well give both. Grafdigger's Cage kind of acts as a super Dispel.
But by the way, I just want to take a moment to appreciate Lucas's operations here. He's like, okay, I'm still deciding, but I will also multitask and shuffle your deck while I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So, okay, you were right. Gets the Grafdigger's Cage and the Dispel.
Yeah. But this is going to be... Oh, and there's a Jace the Mind Sculptor in hand. Why not? Yeah, so you can go Cage and Jace the Mind Sculptor here.
So now that Grafdigger's Cage shuts down Court of Calling.
It shuts down Court of Calling, and Collected Company becomes, look at the top 6 cards of your library.
Which is nice to do sometimes.
That's a very expensive effect for 4 mana.
Right, oh, that's right, and he has a Collected Company in hand that he just Eternal Witness back, so that Grafdigger's Cage was perfect.
Right, yeah, that was the thing, David. David was basically going, I'm either going to shut you down or get value. And Lucas went, well, or win the game. So win the game is not an option. And once Lucas gives David Grafdigger's Cage or Dispel, then at that point, I mean, you could have done something like Gifts Ungiven plus Dispel, but then David would get like 2 more removal spells, and you're not winning that game either. So you might as well give the Cage, and then the Dispel has very low value since the Cage kind of does everything it needs to. We got Vidalcan Shackles for that Eternal Witness. We're ready. Okay, we're going.
Yeah.
David's finding win condition number 2. Was it free for? At least, okay, fine, 2. I guess the second win condition is Vidalcan Shackle taking your opponent's creatures and winning that way.
Oh, sure. Yeah, he could, 7 turns of Eternal Witness beats here.
It's totally reasonable.
Oh, how many islands do you have?
Enough.
Well, maybe we're thinking about a Knight of the Reliquary here as something that might be big enough to dodge the Vidalcan Shackles.
That could be a process, but there's 6 islands, so
yeah.
That would be exactly the size of a Knight of the Reliquary. But that's a good spot. Like, if you're in David's seat and your opponent started to count the islands, you could, go, okay, my opponent probably has Knight of the Reliquary. And then you go, wait a second, I don't mind. I'm having fun here.
And again, he can always just bounce the Knight of the Reliquary if he really needs to.
Exactly.
Are we running low on land, searchable lands here for David Hauser?
Yeah, there are...
I might be in love with this deck.
I think that's a totally...
I might be in love with it. I mean, he just won with like this, crazy combo in game 1, and now he's just grinding his opponent out here in game 2.
Yeah, usually in a matchup like this, these blue-red combo decks tend to be pretty far ahead against these creature decks because they can morph to a control deck. The combo control decks, you can tell which matchups are good when the combo or the control portion are extremely powerful what they do. If both are powerful, then that matchup is extremely good. And in a matchup like this, the control part is really powerful against what Lucas is trying to do.
All right, here's a Sin Collector from Lucas. It's going to get the Dispel, but it sees Possibility Storm sitting in hand for Hauser.
Yeah. Jace the Mind Sculptor also capable of helping that Possibility Storm if needed.
And there is Knight of the Reliquary. So it looks like it's +3.
Yeah. David is also counting the islands. Look at the number. Yep. Here you go. You can have that 2-1 back.
Yeah, that one's all you. Wow, goes up to 11. Says, yeah, you can have that card.
That's not a good sign.
That is got to be one of the most the worst feelings in the world.
Is that a Batterskull in hand? Man, Batterskull and Knight of the Reliquary. That's some... Ouch. That's a lot of power.
Yeah, I don't know how many lands are in Hauser's graveyard, but that
think enough.
Enough that it's relevant. Yeah.
Well, okay, it probably isn't Batter's Call in hand since David would have been incentivized to play it here.
Okay, here is Collected Company.
Look at
But
6
I think
cards.
he's just doing this to actually use the look at 6 cards mode. He's just trying to get past whatever card David left on top of his deck. He's like, I need to draw a real card.
Yeah. Does it on upkeep as well.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity for gamesmanship there from David. He's like, I know you have the Collected Company. Well, I'll leave this really good card on top.
I think David's consideration was just, would this card be awkward or not?
Yeah.
And the answer was nope. But I still think it's heads-up play from Lucas anyways, like just trying to find that 0.02% chance to win.
All right, now he's going to attack. I assume he's got to start attacking Jace here.
It's okay. This Knight of the Reliquary can act as a blocker. Ooh, Kozilek's Return.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, that was the card. It looked like Colorless, so I thought it was Batter's Call, but no, it was actually Kozilek's Return.
Kozilek's Return clears Lucas's board, puts him down to 1 card.
So we can win Knight of the Reliquary. That's win condition 2. We can win by going -12 on Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's win condition 3.
That's next turn. I think that's the better option.
Well, Lucas will almost be dead. The die does not go up to 13.
All right. So Jace the Mind Sculptor is online. Fetch land, though, undoes whatever damage David might have been able to do there. And Lucas really needs to find an Assassin's Trophy and find it now.
Yeah. And then deal with the Knight of the Reliquary slash, all of this.
It's triage, man.
Well, by
it's
the way,
triage. It's like, but that's going to be the game. David Hauser, Possibility Storm. I love this deck, Eduardo.
I mean, it's a cube deck given life.
It is. It is like the best cube draft we've ever seen. We do have some more Magic to show you, so let's go take a look. I think we're going to see some Knight of Autumns in play here. Let's head down back to the feature match area.
8 Knight, was it?
I think so.
8 Knight.
Or maybe. Here we go. So Michael Braverman playing humans. He's playing against Steven Peets. Steven is playing 8 Knight Naya. And Michael Braverman playing the precursor to his Vampires deck, humans. And
I didn't realize we were playing history decks. Sorry, I didn't realize this was a saga. So you play, wait. So the plan is to play Vampires first and then humans?
Yeah,
it's actually it's like the prequel?
Yes, exactly.
I never thought about it that way.
So 4 Knight of Autumn, 4 Knight of the Reliquary in this deck for Steven Peet.
Is Thalia Heretic Kafar a Knight?
I'm not certain.
I don't think so, but I'm less versed in my secondary creature types.
This is really almost more of a traditional zoo-looking deck here. 4 Wild Nacatl, 4 Lightning Bolt. That's what I would sort of qualify as being zoo.
Yeah, there's even 2 Birds of Paradise that kind of power all these free drops, along with the 4 Noble Hierarchs.
Michael Braverman scuffling for land here, but plays a Noble Hierarch on turn 2. Which does triple duty here. Gets him mana, gets him a counter on his champion, and also is going to give him some mana next turn if it lives.
Yeah. By the way, if you're looking to beat these humans deck, these board-centric decks are usually not good news for humans. I think Affinity is the only one that suffers. Oh.
Wow. Lightning Bolt from Steven Peets. Birds and Stomping Ground to clear the board, and then a Noble Hierarch.
I'm just in shock. We're finally seeing Birds and Lightning Bolt working together. We've never thought of this possibility. They've always been fighting so long. What if they join forces?
Bolt with the bird?
Yeah, that's a scary prospect right there.
I love it. Yeah, everything. History is being turned on its head here in the feature match area.
Just looks like a card issue while they solve that. Again, a matchup like this, Reflector Mage is so key in the Humans decks because they allow you to beat cards like Knight of the Reliquary. But if Steven Peets ever gets to untap with a Knight of the Reliquary, then the Humans deck is in a lot of trouble. The creature size plus the ability to get something like a Stirring Wildwood. Stirring Wildwood is a nightmare for the Humans deck. The free 4 reach body against something like a Mantis Rider.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so now Michael Braverman has been sent back to the Stone Age here. He's got 1 land. He was really leaning on that Noble Hierarch very heavily.
Blood Moon.
I believe you.
It's kicking someone when they're down.
And Bird of Paradise gets to attack for 1 here.
To be fair, Blood Moon is not the spiciest card in this sideboard. That Honor is reserved to settle the wreckage.
Yeah, this is game 2, by the way. Steven is already up a game. Settle the wreckage, really?
Yeah, I would never expect that from... Like, if I was attacking into this deck, I would not expect to get settled at all.
And again, looking at the sideboard, you see another nod in the direction of those dredge decks. We've talked about that a lot.
So that's Thalia, Heretic Kafar. And we have 2 beautiful mountains in play on Michael's side and on Steven's side.
Thalia Heretic Qatar is a human soldier. Qatar. And there is Tarmogoyf. And the zoo is in full effect here.
This is definitely the Motley collection of cards.
Wow. Michael Braverman has 2 lands, but can't really use them to do anything. They are both mountains, as you pointed out.
Should have really just put a bunch of Lightning Bolts and Searing Blazes like in the deck. Been ready for this possibility.
Sideboard him. Wow. Yeah, just not really getting to play this game of Magic at all. Shows all his uncastable cards to Steven Peets.
There's a Settle the Wreckage.
Steven's like, oh yeah, I had a Settle the Wreckage. Oh, yeah. So cool deck, 8-Night Naya. That also wins here. And that's pretty cool. We saw a lot of interesting stuff in Modern that we were not expecting, Eduardo. Why don't you unpack this round for us?
I just realized that Blood Moon and Settle the Wreckage are maybe not the best combination together when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what I unpack this round is Modern can be wonderful. Like, it's just nice. Okay, so the Possibility Storm was great, and that 8-Night deck was great too. But I think I wanted to take a moment to look at something like what Torolf brought to the table.
Yeah, let's talk about that deck. That was the first deck we watched today.
Because I thought the other 2 decks were fun, but like if you're looking at like newer archetypes, something like what Torolf did is like evolving an archetype and potentially bringing something new to the table that still has a lot of competitive game. Well, with Possibility Storm, the deck is great, but I can't, in good conscience, say that that's what you should bring if your aim is to top 8 the Grand Prix, for example. But if you're aiming to have a fun time, those lists were wonderful.
Yeah, and again, I think you'll see a lot of these deck lists on the website after the event. Yeah. Check for the end-of-day highlights that Corbin and Frank Carson will be putting together, and I'm sure you'll see them in there. Pretty exciting. We've got some more Magic coming up for you, some more Good Morning Magic coming up for you, so some other cool decks. Also, by the way, local hero Sal Malka. This is the guy who invented the Rock, the Rock.
1998
yeah,
version
absolutely.
of the Rock.
Was 8-0 last night, and hopefully we're going to get him into the feature match area real soon. So don't go anywhere. We got a couple brief messages, and then we'll bring Marshall and Paulo in and bring you some more Magic.